Summary of Wicked: The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire. First published September 29, 1995. Read to you at Booknook. The story begins with the prologue, introducing the witch as she hovers above the yellow brick road. Observing from a distance, she contemplates the companions traveling below: Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodman, and the Lion. Their demeanor reveals a mixture of camaraderie and unease as they navigate a damaged and overgrown road. Their conversation touches on the witch herself, speculating on her origins, psychological state, and motivations. The witch overhears their gossip, which ranges from her supposed hermaphroditism to her alleged grievances and alliances. The companions view her as a figure of both fear and pity, noting the tragic elements in her life and the political implications of her actions. Amid their chatter, a storm brews, adding urgency to their journey. Dorothy's voice, full of youthful sincerity, marks her as distinct from the others. Though naive, she expresses sympathy for the witch, acknowledging the universality of grief. The witch remains hidden, her attention drawn to Dorothy's sparkling shoes, the same shoes that once belonged to her deceased sister. Overwhelmed by the memory of her sister and the injustice she feels, the witch is consumed by a desire to claim the shoes, believing them rightfully hers. However, the storm's wetness forces her to retreat, as exposure to water poses a significant threat to her. She resolves to bide her time, knowing she and the companions will cross paths again. The narrative transitions to Elphaba's birth, framed by her parents, Melina and Frex, living in Munchkinland. Melina, a restless and indulgent woman, grapples with boredom and dissatisfaction in her marriage. Frex, a devout and austere minister, is deeply committed to his faith but disconnected from Melina's needs. Their union, marked by incompatibility, reflects broader societal tensions between personal desires and religious dogma. Elphaba's arrival is anything but ordinary. Born with green skin and sharp teeth, she shocks her parents and the local midwives. Her appearance elicits fear and revulsion, with some interpreting her as a curse or punishment from the unnamed god. Despite these reactions, Elphaba survives, displaying an uncanny resilience. Her green hue becomes a symbol of her otherness, setting her apart from the beginning. Frex, preoccupied with his religious duties, often leaves Melina to fend for herself. He devotes his energies to preaching against the clock of the time dragon, a mechanical contraption that delivers cryptic messages and draws large crowds. The clock represents a challenge to Frex's faith, embodying a form of secular prophecy that he views as heretical. While Frex is away, Melina succumbs to loneliness and seeks solace in the company of strangers, including a mysterious man named Turtle Heart. Turtle Heart, a glassblower from Quadling Country, becomes a pivotal figure in the household. His arrival coincides with a growing sense of tension and change. Melina is drawn to him, finding in him a source of comfort and fascination. Turtle Heart's presence disrupts the fragile equilibrium of their lives, introducing new dynamics that challenge existing loyalties. His artistry with glass, including the creation of vibrant red objects, captivates both Melina and Frex, albeit for different reasons. As Elphaba grows, her peculiarities become more pronounced. She exhibits an aversion to water, a trait that mystifies and alarms those around her. Her interactions with the world are marked by a fierce independence and an acute awareness of her surroundings. Despite her young age, she seems to possess a deep understanding of the complexities of her environment. The narrative delves into the cultural and political landscape of Oz, revealing a land marked by divisions and inequalities. Quadling Country, home to Turtle Heart, is portrayed as a marginalized region, its inhabitants facing exploitation and neglect. The construction of the yellow brick road serves as a metaphor for progress at the expense of tradition, with the Quadlings bearing the brunt of these changes. Turtle Heart's accounts of his homeland highlight the fragility of its ecosystem and the resilience of its people. Amid these broader themes, personal relationships take center stage. Melina and Turtle Heart's bond deepens, creating tension with Frex, who struggles to reconcile his faith with the realities of his family life. Nanny, a practical and sharp-witted caregiver, provides a counterbalance to the household's emotional turmoil. Her insights and interventions reveal the underlying currents of love, fear, and duty that shape their interactions. Elphaba's early years are defined by a series of challenges and revelations. Her green skin and unusual abilities make her both a curiosity and a target. The societal response to her presence underscores the pervasive prejudice and fear of difference. Despite this, Elphaba's spirit remains unbroken, hinting at the strength and determination that will define her later life. The story delves deeper into Elphaba's formative years, exploring her transition into adolescence and early adulthood. The story begins with Elphaba's enrollment at Shiz University, a prestigious institution that draws students from all corners of Oz. Her acceptance into Shiz marks a turning point in her life, as it exposes her to new ideas, people, and challenges that will shape her identity. Upon arrival at Shiz, Elphaba finds herself paired as a roommate with Galinda, a privileged and superficial girl from the upper echelons of Gillikin society. Their relationship begins with mutual disdain, as Galinda perceives Elphaba as odd and uncouth, while Elphaba views Galinda as shallow and self-absorbed. Despite their initial animosity, their shared experiences at Shiz gradually foster a complex and evolving bond. Shiz University serves as a microcosm of the broader social and political tensions within Oz. The institution is a melting pot of students from different regions and social classes, and its curriculum reflects the diverse ideologies that shape the land. Dr. Dillamond, a goat and a professor of life sciences, becomes a pivotal figure in Elphaba's intellectual awakening. As an intelligent and articulate animal, a sentient, talking creature, Dr. Dillamond advocates for animal rights and equality, challenging the systemic discrimination that permeates Ozian society. Elphaba quickly becomes one of Dr. Dillamond's most dedicated students, drawn to his passion for justice and his willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Under his mentorship, she begins to question the status quo and develop her own critical perspective on power and oppression. Dr. Dillamond's research into the origins of animals and their differences from humans sparks controversy, drawing the ire of powerful figures who view his work as a threat to the established order. As Elphaba immerses herself in her studies, Galinda navigates the social dynamics of Shiz, seeking to maintain her status as a popular and admired student. Her focus on appearances and social conventions contrasts sharply with Elphaba's earnest commitment to learning and activism. However, a series of events forces Galinda to confront her own biases and assumptions, leading to moments of personal growth. The arrival of Madame Morrible, the headmistress of Shiz, introduces an element of intrigue and manipulation. Madame Morrible is a cunning and politically connected figure who exerts considerable influence over the students. She recognizes Elphaba's intelligence and determination, offering her opportunities that seem both promising and perilous. At the same time, she subtly encourages Galinda to embrace her potential as a trainer of minds, planting seeds of ambition that will shape her future. Tragedy strikes when Dr. Dillamond is murdered under mysterious circumstances. His death sends shockwaves through the university, exposing the depths of prejudice and corruption within Oz. Elphaba is devastated by the loss of her mentor and becomes even more resolute in her commitment to justice. She begins to suspect that Dr. Dillamond's research was deliberately suppressed and that his murder was orchestrated by those seeking to silence him. As tensions escalate, Elphaba, Galinda, and their peers are drawn into the political turmoil surrounding animal rights and the oppressive policies of the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard's administration enacts laws that strip animals of their rights and reduce them to subhuman status, fueling resistance movements across the land. Elphaba's sense of moral outrage drives her to take increasingly bold actions, even as she grapples with the personal and ethical implications of her choices. Amid these upheavals, Elphaba and Galinda's relationship undergoes significant transformation. Galinda begins to shed her superficial persona, embracing a more empathetic and principled outlook. She changes her name to Glinda as a gesture of solidarity with the oppressed, signaling her commitment to a higher purpose. Despite their differences, she and Elphaba find common ground in their shared desire to challenge injustice. The narrative also introduces Fiero, a handsome and enigmatic prince from the Vinkus region. Fiero's arrival at Shiz adds a new layer of complexity to the story, as he becomes entangled in the lives of Elphaba and Glinda. His perspective as an outsider provides a fresh lens through which to view the conflicts and contradictions of Ozian society. Fiero's relationship with Elphaba is marked by a deep, albeit complicated, connection, as they both struggle to reconcile their personal desires with their responsibilities to others. The story transitions into Elphaba's role as a determined but increasingly isolated figure fighting against the injustices of the wizard's regime. She has taken residence in the Vinkus, a remote and rugged region of Oz, where she lives in a castle near Kiamo-ko. Here, Elphaba reflects on the trajectory of her life, haunted by memories of Shiz, the death of Dr. Dillamond, and the strained relationships she left behind. The castle becomes both her sanctuary and her prison, a symbol of her retreat from the broader world. Fiero's death looms large over Elphaba's thoughts. The events leading to his capture and presumed execution remain unclear, but she blames herself for the danger her actions brought to him. Her guilt manifests as an obsession with atonement, driving her deeper into her work against the wizard while also pushing her further away from those who care for her. This period is marked by a significant transformation in Elphaba's character. She becomes more cynical, her idealism giving way to a hardened resolve. The Vinkus itself is a land of stark contrasts, its natural beauty juxtaposed with the hardships faced by its people. Elphaba becomes a reluctant figure of authority among the locals, who view her with a mix of fear and respect. She employs her growing knowledge of sorcery to protect the castle and its surroundings, leaning into the reputation of a witch that has begun to define her. Her magical abilities, once a source of ambivalence, now serve as a tool for survival and defiance. During this time, Elphaba becomes reacquainted with her sister Nessarose, now the ruler of Munchkinland. Nessarose has embraced her role as a religious leader, enforcing strict theocratic laws that alienate many of her subjects. The ruby slippers, enchanted and given to Nessarose by Glinda, become a symbol of her authority and the widening gap between the sisters. Elphaba is critical of Nessarose's methods, seeing them as oppressive and hypocritical, even as she struggles to reconcile her own moral compromises. The narrative shifts when Elphaba learns of Dorothy's arrival in Oz and her inadvertent role in Nessarose's death. Crushed by a falling house, Nessarose's death leaves a power vacuum in Munchkinland and sets off a chain of events that draw Elphaba out of her seclusion. Dorothy's possession of the ruby slippers becomes a point of fixation for Elphaba, as she views the shoes as both a personal legacy and a potential source of power to further her cause. Her desire to reclaim the slippers is not purely selfish, but tied to her lingering grief for Nessarose and her broader quest for justice. Elphaba's attempts to confront Dorothy are fraught with complications. The girl, naive and well-meaning, represents an unwitting pawn in the wizard's schemes. Dorothy's innocence and kindness unsettle Elphaba, forcing her to confront her own humanity and the extent to which she has become the villain in her own story. Despite this, Elphaba remains resolute in her belief that reclaiming the slippers is necessary, even as her actions push Dorothy further away. The climax unfolds as the tensions between Elphaba, Dorothy, and the wizard's forces come to a head. Dorothy's companions, the Scarecrow, Tin Woodman, and Lion, play a significant role in complicating Elphaba's plans. Each of them embodies a different aspect of the resistance to Elphaba's attempts to reclaim the slippers, and their interactions highlight the broader themes of loyalty, courage, and identity. Elphaba's final confrontation with Dorothy takes place in the castle at Kiamo Ko, where the full weight of her choices and sacrifices comes to bear. In a moment of vulnerability, Elphaba attempts to explain her perspective to Dorothy, seeking understanding, if not forgiveness. However, the conversation is interrupted by a series of chaotic events that culminate in Elphaba's tragic demise. In an ironic twist of fate, the very water that has been her lifelong weakness becomes the instrument of her death. As Dorothy accidentally douses her with water, Elphaba dissolves, leaving behind only her black hat and the lingering questions of her life. Her death is both a culmination of her struggles and a stark reminder of the misunderstandings and systemic injustices that defined her existence. Dorothy, deeply affected by the encounter, carries the weight of Elphaba's story as she continues her journey. The conclusion reflects on Elphaba's legacy and the impact of her life on the people of Oz. Her transformation from a curious and idealistic student to the feared and misunderstood Wicked Witch of the West underscores the complexity of her character and the societal forces that shaped her. The narrative leaves readers with a sense of ambiguity, challenging them to reconsider notions of good and evil, heroism and villainy, and the true cost of fighting for justice in an unjust world. The end. I hope you have enjoyed this summary. If you liked it, please subscribe so I can keep uploading even more books. Also, giving me a like helps a lot. Finally, if you would like me to summarize the second book in the series or any specific book, please write me it in the comments.